Greetings and welcome to the Seattle Law of One podcast. Today's episode is about defense against the dark arts. At some point, everyone on the positive path of service to others thinks about how to protect themselves from what in the Law of One is known as psychic greetings or psychic attacks from those on the negative path of service to self. Yet the entity known as Quo has noted more than a few times that what most people interpret as psychic attacks from other selves are in fact coming from parts of our own self that we've not yet integrated. What exactly are psychic greetings, and how can we tell the difference between the ones coming from outside us and the ones coming from within? And how can we best protect ourselves from both? Let's find out. My name is Jonathan Tong. I'm facilitator for the Seattle Law of One study group. We can be found in the list of study groups at the L&L Research website shown on your screen. We do also have a Facebook group, and we meet twice a week on Zoom. Tuesdays from 3 to 5 p.m. Pacific Time, Saturdays 8 to 10 a.m. Pacific Time. You don't have to live in Seattle or anywhere near Seattle to join our Facebook group or our Zoom sessions. Anyone who's interested and available is welcome to join. Just contact us at seattlelaw1@gmail.com to get on our mailing list. We send out emails once a week with Zoom links and information on what we'll be talking about that week. We do also have a YouTube channel where we keep recordings of previous podcast episodes, as well as recordings of our monthly Q&As with Jim McCarty. Just go to our YouTube channel and hit the subscribe button if you'd like to get notifications when we upload new videos, and contact us at seattlelaw1@gmail.com if you'd like to join any of our Q&As with Jim. As mentioned, our topic for today is defense against the dark arts. Let's go ahead and meet our panelists. Panelists, let our viewers know who you are and where you're calling from, starting with Anthony.
Hi, I'm Anthony Johnson. I'm out here in Camas, Washington, and I'm looking forward to talking about this. I have a little bit of experience with some of these topics personally, so I look forward to diving a little bit deeper into them.
Looking forward to a great conversation. Always great to see you. And Andrea.
Hi, everybody. So my name is Andrea. I'm calling from Calgary, Alberta. Excited to be here today as well with these amazing panelists. And Jonathan, thank you for having me. I have minimal experience with the actual practice, but have read a lot in my younger days.
Sounds great. Looking forward. Always enjoy having you here. And Vicky?
Hello, my name is Vicky. I'm calling from Berkshire, UK. It's my first podcast, and I'm looking forward into discussing all that stuff.
Me too. Looking forward to it and looking forward to having you on again after this. Did want to remind our viewers that none of us here are experts or authorities on the Law of One or on ritual magic. We are normal people like you talking about black magic and white magic, like normal people. Anything that any of us say could be wrong, and you're welcome to disagree with anything or everything that any of us say. If you are already familiar with the Law of One and the entity known as Quo, you might want to skip ahead to the chapter on psychic greetings. Otherwise, for those who are new to the Law of One, you can think of it as a set of spiritual teachings based on the understanding that all is one and that one thing is love. All of the reading passages we're looking at today came to us through the process known as channeling. You can think of channeling as a form of telepathic communication between humans and entities such as angelic beings, extraterrestrial beings, inner planes beings, spirits of deceased, higher self, etc. A channel basically serves as a mouthpiece for other entities to speak through. And in this case, those entities would appear to be of extraterrestrial origin. There are two types of channeling that have been developed by our friends at L&L Research. Trance channeling is when the channel is in a trance state, subconscious or unconscious, as if asleep, meaning they are not at all aware of what words are coming out of their mouth as they're saying them. This is how contact was made with the entity known as Ra back in the early 1980s. Conscious channeling is when the channel is in a conscious but deep meditative state, meaning they're only somewhat aware of what words are coming out of their mouth as they're saying them. This is how contact was made with the entity known as Quo, starting in the mid-1980s up to present day. Who is Quo? You can think of Quo as a group entity made up of three social memory complexes: Ra at 6th density, Latui at 5th density, Hatan at 4th density. You can think of a social memory complex as a planetary consciousness. It would be as if the entire human population of Earth was merged into one group mind. You can think of densities and dimensions as different levels of consciousness or different levels of reality, since those two things are so closely intertwined. Imagine, if you will, that the elements of earth, fire, water, and air have some form of consciousness, as many indigenous peoples have been saying for centuries they do. We refer to that as first density. You can think of second density as the level of consciousness of plants and animals. Clearly, a significant quantum leap above and beyond the consciousness of what we would refer to as inanimate matter. You can think of third density as the level of consciousness of humans and cetaceans like whales and dolphins. Again, a significant quantum leap above and beyond the consciousness of plants and other animals. You can think of fourth density as the level of consciousness of the social memory complex. Again, it would be as if the entire human population of Earth was merged into one group mind. Clearly, a big quantum leap above and beyond the consciousness of one individual person. You can think of fifth and sixth densities as whatever would be comparable quantum leaps above and beyond fourth density. There is much more that could be said on the subject, and if you're interested, check out our podcast episode on densities and dimensions. Otherwise, for now, suffice it to say, the entity known as Quo appears to be a group entity made up of three planetary consciousnesses: Ra at sixth density, Latui at fifth density, and Haton at fourth density. First contact with Quo was made by the LNL research channeling team in 1986, almost 2 years after the end of the Ra contact in 1984. They have been channeled every month since then, up to present day, by the LNL research channeling team. Transcripts of those sessions can be found in the LNL Conscious Channeling Library shown on your screen. Having said all that, let's take a look at a couple passages on what is referred to as psychic greetings. On March 14th, 2009, Quo said, "There are basically two kinds of psychic greeting. By far, the most common is the greeting of the integrated personality by those parts of the personality that are not yet integrated and that perhaps have split apart from the integrated personality, so that parts of the self attack the self as if the self were another. The other type of psychic greeting involves an actual entity other than the self. In the case of the greeting of the self by the self, the momentary vibration that is occurring at the time may well have something to do with why that greeting occurred. However, if the psychic greeting is coming from an entity outside the self, the momentary polarity of the entity will have almost nothing to do with the greeting. Rather, the greeting will have to do with how closely that entity is standing to the light. When an entity is standing close to the light, attempting to serve in some way that is above the ordinary, healing, teaching, or in some way serving others, that light reveals any small defective character and shows to an outer entity the most likely place for a temptation or an incursion into the energy body. Consequently, those who are serving in such a way will find psychic greeting inevitable." A lot to unpack in this passage. Like every other passage, I think maybe the thing that stands out the most to me is that, as they're saying it, by far the most common things that are interpreted as psychic greetings or attacks are not coming from another entity, but coming from parts of ourselves that we've not yet integrated. Would love to hear the panel's thoughts on that or anything else. Anthony, any thoughts on that or any other part of this passage?
No, definitely some things to unpack, but I'll just say it kind of describes my own personal experience. You know, when I first learned about the law of one and learned about catalysts and psychic greeting, I was like, there it is. It's all these other entities out there that are attacking me. It can never be me. You know, all the pain and stress I'm going through, it's definitely that, right? But then as you practice and you begin to meditate, you begin to work on yourself, you start realizing that even if it is something as dramatic as the psychic greeting, which, as it says, is very rarely when you come across this type of experience, it's still how you describe that to yourself. Because even in those situations when it is an actual negative greeting, it's how you respond to it that determines how you experience it. And that's true with every single event, you know? And then so as you grow and learn, you realize that it's more and more and more yourself. Even when it is an outside greeting, it is yourself. So.
Yeah, and I think it takes a while to get used to that because, as you said, most of us are used to like putting the blame for something on somebody else or assuming that we are being victimized by somebody else. What do you think, Andrea? Any thoughts?
We're definitely being victimized, but basically by ourselves. We're bullying ourselves. I mean, and really, Quo called it: "Go to therapy and work on your shit." Yeah, meditate. That's really what it comes down to, right? Work on your stuff, work on your personality quirks, learn to accept the things you can't control, and then you'll realize that actually, it's not that bad. It has nothing to do with me, right? You are sometimes going to be the bad guy to somebody else, and sometimes they're going to be the bad guy to you, and that's what you need to learn to grow as a catalyst, and vice versa. That's what they needed to learn and grow. You had a great episode on mirrors, and that's what it comes down to.
Yeah, sometimes the bad guy is yourself. The phrase self-sabotage, I think, comes to mind a lot when I think about this, how often I think I might be sabotaging myself and trying to do this thing for whatever reason that might be. Vicky, any thoughts?
Yes, actually, for someone who is starting with magic and defending themselves against dark forces or powers, it's one of the initial tasks that they have to do is shed light into the parts of themselves that they haven't done it yet. So knowing yourself is the first thing. Otherwise, it will attack, definitely.
Yeah, I am reminded of a quote from Marianne Williamson, who unfortunately I don't have that quote handy on me, but she was saying something to the effect that we are often afraid of our own power. We are afraid that we are way more powerful than we think we are, and that might make us insecure, which could lead to, like I said, self-sabotage, because you don't want to be there's a part of you that does not want you to be successful, does not want you to be powerful or whatever, because of whatever inner work that we haven't done yet. So much appreciate that. Does anybody have any thoughts on the part in the second and third paragraph about standing close to the light as far as interpretations? What I'm getting from that is that if you are just an ordinary person, just kind of doing your ordinary thing and not necessarily influencing a lot of other people, you're probably not getting a psychic reading from an other self who doesn't want you to enable others to lighten their energies as well. But if you are somebody who maybe does channeling or something for L&L research, then yes, the psychic readings are probably inevitable because they don't necessarily want you spreading that light to others. What do you think, panelists? Anybody have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, you bring up a good point around the brighter that you shine, the more likely you are to, I guess, target it. And I use quotes on this one because it's not really, they're not after you or coming to get you, but the more likely you are to kind of shine light on the dark parts of yourself that you're maybe not willing to accept, but also the ones that want to dim the light and say, hey, that's too bright, that's hurting my eyes. Can you just go over there, or just leave me alone? Or here, I'm going to come dim you a little bit because it's just too bright for me. So that's likely to happen. But honestly, if you just keep to yourself, keep to your, you shine bright on your own without necessarily trying to affect other people. But if they come too close, they get kind of lit up as well. So it's one of those, your best defense is just to be yourself and be bright, be shiny. Yeah. And whoever comes close is going to either become bright, or they're going to, be a little bit less dim. And they're going to walk away and go, ugh, I don't like that. That's not fun. That's too bright for me. Ugh. I'm going to go back to the darkness. I don't like this. I can't dim your light. This isn't working. I'm out.
Well said. Well said. Makes perfect sense to me. Anybody else? Any thoughts on that particular point?
I would circle back to what I was saying before. Very rarely can I say for sure after learning and practicing that there has been a psychic attack. But the one time I have said I can say for sure is when going to homecoming and building up to that event. There's always, at least the few times I was going, there's always some type of resistance, whether it be the types of people I had met at the airport, the service I was getting, and just extra, just unnecessary negative energy where I'm almost missing my plane, even though no matter I'm positive, I'm excited, I'm ready to go to homecoming, but we're all gathering. We're a whole bunch of wanderers gathering, and there's just something that can tend to happen. And I talk to other people that at homecoming too as well, what they're experiencing. We're all gathering and coming together for this event, and there can be some some other outside things that you're not planning for that really can really, if you lean into it, would really trip you up and make the event bad. So I think other people
Yeah, I
experience it
appreciate
too.
you bringing that up because I know I have heard also from other people going to homecoming, and it did happen to me once also that, yeah, things come up that make it really difficult for you to be there because I'm guessing there are outside entities on the negative path that don't want so many positive entities gathering and sharing their light together with the law of squares and everything. So, yeah, appreciate that. It is worth noting. I mean, I can't think of anybody who's much closer to the light than Jim McCarty. And I think I've asked him about it. He's been asked about it several times, our Q&As, and he says he never experiences psychic readings as far as he can tell. I think there may be ego involved in people who feel like they're being targeted for attack because think that they are. For whatever reason, I never get attacks either for whatever I'm doing. I think I must be such a laughably easy target. I just don't bother with me and go on to somebody more interesting. Shall we take a look at another passage? This is from May 13th, 2008. Quo said, "Psychic greeting can be something that occurs even within your own personality, as voices from your past spring up from your mind as thought forms, offering you hurtful messages. Whether the psychic resistance comes from within the self or outside of the personality shell, the response that removes psychic greeting is, firstly, to be fearless, and secondly, to send love and light to the greeter and to the entire transaction. A negative entity will be sickened by true love. The challenge here is that it needs to be genuine, heartfelt love, not that which is applied as a band-aid from the intellect. This love for the creator must come from the heart." It does remind me of one of my favorite memes involving Thor and Daenerys about when you have to send genuine love and light to a negative entity giving you a psychic greeting. Doing it sincerely with an open heart, that is most definitely part of the challenge, I think. I think you spoke to this not too long ago, Andrea. Any thoughts, comments on this passage?
Yeah, for sure. But first, I want to say that you're probably just way too shiny and bright, and that's why they're not bugging you anymore. Is there's just like it's not worth it. I'm just gonna be so sick and nauseous after just being close to him. Like it's just whatever. I'm gonna leave him alone. That's probably what it is.
The positive people feel that way about me
yeah,
too. I don't get
exactly.
invited to parties much.
That's okay. That's probably a good thing. You found the introvert right here. But yeah, in terms of psychic readings, I think it's interesting because we use the word psychic to say it's mental, right? It's spiritual. But at the same time, like we are a mind body, piece. Like there is the body reaction. And I've noticed sometimes that I have a physical reaction to fear. Like I, go up the stairs when the lights are down, and you hear a creak behind you. It's an immediate fear response of your body just freezes, right? But that's not fear of, some, ghost is going to get me or something's going to get me. So I think it's important to distinguish that piece to say when that fear comes, if it's felt in the body, it's not necessary that you are in danger. It's okay to take that moment and breathe and, accept it and allow that love to come through and say, it's just me. It's me scaring myself. Ooh, you can't tickle yourself. You can't really scare yourself either if you think about it that way. So just incorporate that into your heart and say, okay, whatever the body is doing, let the body do. Split away, go to your heart, go to your mind and go, okay, I'm safe. It's okay. It's just me tickling myself or me scaring myself. All good. And then it will pass.
Yeah, well said. Beautiful. I got nothing to add to that. Vicky, any thoughts to add?
Yeah, the way I see these kind of psychic ratings is like cosmic scales, right? If you polarize towards the light mostly, they will try to get you, to balance a little bit, not to be that much towards the light side. So I usually see them like that, whether it's myself attacking me, well, I haven't experienced another entity, to be honest, or it's my body, as Adria described. I just try to see that, okay, the scales is trying to balance itself. So it's my choice whether to push it a little bit harder or not. So this is how I try to show my love towards the whole process. And to
Beautifully
send the
put.
love, yeah.
I never thought of it that way, but yes, kind of balancing the scales makes perfect sense to me. Appreciate that. Anthony, any thoughts to add?
Well, I would just say that Ra even mentioned it. Maybe I even saw it in our future quotes here, but something about blessing or sending love to the entity, but also sending love to the energy in which that entity is sending, and then also to accepting yourself, because all of it is one, and that really is a way of kind of looking at it. There really is no separation between also. Excuse me. Also, too, in Buddhism, we talk about that too as well. There really is no difference between the giver, the gift, and the receiver. All of it is one, because you can't have any of it without. There is no process without all three of them becoming together. And so, it's important to look at it that these individuals that we're having these psychic readings with, they are part of us. And even more so, the fact that there's times in our own life, we're really honest, that we are no different than them. There have been times, whether it be even a millisecond, or even the fact that we can perceive it in our own mind, the rapist, the murderer, and we can see those things happening in our mind. We are then, in this essence, we are those things in which we are
For sure.
imagining. And for us to be able to image them, and for us to be able to even have a figment of it in our imagination, we have to some form in some way be that thing. And so we are all things, because our mind has the infinite capacity to imagine all things. It's just a
For
matter of
sure.
where we prioritize what we have intent towards, right? Where a negative
Right.
entity is intent is towards itself, and all those thoughts are focused on that. We are focused on how we can serve others. But we all are all
And
the
both
same.
paths are considered equally
Both paths are
valid
equal.
in the eyes of the
Absolutely.
creator.
Mhm.
Yeah, I appreciate your bringing it back, as we're always going to do, to the fundamental principle of the law of one, which is that all is one, and every one that you see as a separate person is, in fact, yourself in another body, another creator in another body, as if creator was like a puppet. Having two puppets talking to each other seem like separate things, but it's really all creator doing this to itself, I guess. Beautiful thoughts. Did anybody have anything else to add on this passage before we change topics, change passage?
Yeah, I just want to add one more thing. Like, it's not, this isn't, I mean, we talk about it and I would say, I make light of it, but it's not to take away that somebody might actually be going through this and suffering and finding themselves scared or anxious or nervous or, going through really a lot of catalyst and a lot of challenges. The message is really the one of love, and like, you can't tickle yourself. So if you can take that away and take a beat, take a breath, pause whatever cycle you're going through, if you're spiraling up or down, and think it through, feel it, but then accept it. And that's, not to make light of anybody who's going through a lot of challenges, right?
Appreciate bringing that up. Yeah, and breathing is for sure super helpful, important practice. I know whenever I feel like I'm getting angry or upset about something, I remind myself to take some deep breaths and count to at least 3, if not 5 or 10. And really important spiritual practice. We did a podcast episode on looking at breath work from different angles. Check it out. Anybody else have anything to add on this passage before we move on?
Well, lastly, I'll just kind of to ground it a little bit more practicality. It's just like when you have a bully, me being a little neurodivergent as a kid and very hyperactive in class, I had to deal with, bullies. And something that I did experience growing up was at a time in my life I was mature enough to actually kind of laugh at the jokes and to not take it as seriously, because I kind of got tired of the ass whoopings. I knew it was going to happen regardless, So I took a different approach. I wasn't really afraid anymore. And believe it or not, it didn't happen immediately, but over time, I wasn't the center of focus anymore, because I was something that wasn't as entertaining. It wasn't as, oh, look at me hurting his feelings. It's more so this guy's kind of laughing with me at his own jokes. This guy is not really entertaining the fear aspect of it. And it's the same thing with negative entities. When you can able to kind of change the perspective from fear to acceptance, and then from acceptance to love, it's a gradual thing. The amount of pressure, if you're in those situations, can lighten, and that's even within your own
For sure.
self too as well, because as they say, most of these psychic attacks happen within ourselves. So just
For
imagine
sure.
that too as well, that to apply that love and compassion to one's own self is something that I'm lacking in too as well, when I really look at the subtle ways that I think about things.
For sure. Yeah, laughter and humor can be very magical in being able to take a negative, scary energy and flip it around and turn it into laughter and joy. Did a podcast episode on laughter and the law of one, because they've talked about it a lot as a really important part of our spiritual growth. while we're on the subject of podcast episodes, there was the first thing that they mentioned in responding to this, and that is to be fearless. And yeah, we did a podcast episode not too long on how to not be afraid in a world that seems to be designed to appear negative and scary, in a society that seems to be organized specifically to keep us in a perpetual state of fear and anxiety. How to be able to take that and turn it around. Good passages there. Check it out. Otherwise, let's go ahead and take a look at a couple passages on what is known as black magic. This is one passage, actually, but it's a long one, 2 slides, I believe. On June 14th, 1992, Quo said, and this has been edited for brevity, "Let us first define the term black arts or black magical art. The metaphysical, both of the service to others path and service to self path, is that which takes place upon a field which appears to be dark. The background of metaphysical work for both polarities is a metaphysical environment of darkness. For the metaphysical consciousness of the living spirit within third density illusion is hidden within the deep and unlit roots of mind. Consequently, both those who seek the darkness and those who seek the light begin in a common ground of darkness, the darkness of that which is not known. If a metaphysical ravening beast attacks one in the manner of magical arts, one reckons with this attack by visualizing this creature, welcoming it into the self, and accepting fully that this horrible monster is a part of the self. The first defense, therefore, is to visualize this negative power and fearlessly to invite it to take up a loving absorption within the very heart, for positive power is power balanced by knowledge of the self. The decision not to attempt power over another is made when the entity grasps that there is no need to have power over others, for all of creation expresses its power in the self. All magical work, therefore, is done upon the self. There is no need to manipulate, teach, control, move, or advise other entities. The need is only to do these things within the self, disciplining the self to a more and more balanced and clear acceptance of the universal nature of selfhood, and therefore choosing lucidly and clearly to serve others, to withhold judgment of or control over others, and to practice loving the self, accepting the self, and allowing the errors perceived within the self to be self-forgiven. As one forgives oneself, one is then able to forgive all. As the negative greeting is seen, then it is visualized and made materially real within the metaphysical world of thought as a creature of the night, a mythical creature which then is lovingly absorbed, accepted, and forgiven. The forgiven selfishness becomes harmless. This alone is enough to dissuade most negative third density entities who are wishing to control others, for most are not particularly skillful. Being accepted is unacceptable to a negatively oriented entity who gains power by causing fear, anger, hatred, disgust, and other negative reactions of emotion. When this entity's selfhood is seen for its blackness, yet lovingly, compassionately accepted, absorbed into a strong goodness of self and forgiven, the negative entity experiences loss of all power and chooses to attempt to control others who will be satisfactorily afraid and terrorized by such. Beautiful passage that I think kind of echoes things that we have said already, but I do really love the way it is expressed here in terms of if you perceive an attack from some being who seems to be a monster or just a really evil person, rather than trying to fight them, the idea is to respond with love and acceptance and to embrace them. It sounds a lot like shadow work, I think you could say. What do you think, Vicky? Any thoughts on anything here?
Yes, this description of being attacked by creature who might resemble a monster or something reminds me of an event that Dion Fortune described that happened to her at some point. And actually, in practical magic, this absorption and acceptance procedure should not be attempted from someone who is a beginner, because it might have very negative results. It should only be attempted by an adept. On the other hand, it is important, I believe, to understand that we are both good and bad. So we have our dark side, we have our bright side, and it's up to us to accept both sides and decide how we want to continue. So to make the choice eventually.
Yeah, I appreciate your saying that. I know it's been said many times that you are the murderer, you are the rapist, and it could be you as much as anybody else. And I think it has taken me a while to realize what they mean in terms of. It's true. I mean, I see myself as a pretty positive person, and no, I would never think of murdering or raping anybody, but I've had extremely positive experiences all my life. I think I could imagine if I took all of the positive experiences that I've had and flipped them and turned into negative experiences, yeah, I could very easily be that kind of person. So I think just being able to acknowledge that much makes it a little bit easier for me to respond with love and compassion to somebody who I see as polar opposite. Oh, what do you think,
Yes.
Anthony?
And
Any
also,
thoughts on that?
Yeah, absolutely. First thing that comes to mind is if we look across, just our own history, we'll see that wars always beget more wars. You kill someone's cousin, they're going to want to kill your cousin. They want to kill your son later on. It continues and continues. But there are times in history, and the one thing that does come to mind is Gandhi, who was able to free India from colonization, not through violence, but through nonviolence. And that particular situation, though it did still have a lot of more trials and tribulations due to racism and other stuff, was essentially ended when they actually signed the letter, right? And that was due to nonviolence, due to them actually sitting down and through much, as Vicky said, through non-adept people taking on that. And I really think it's about understanding that the sincerity and the level of sacrifice that takes place. Because when you stand in front of pure negativity and you offer up love, you have to be willing to sacrifice everything, right? Because then it's
Yeah,
not true love, right? And so those individuals showed that because some of them died, many of them died. And the British soldiers came up, grabbed them, pulled them out the way, and other people stepped in. And it was that constant sacrifice that just overwhelmed the British people. Like, we can't do this anymore, right?
yeah,
And so you take that, just to end it on that, you take that same type of principle and you look at America throughout slavery, many black uprisings came and through violence. Many slaves tried to overturn their masters, and it would end in huge massacres and huge over assertion of violence. And it wasn't until Martin Luther King learned about this technique from Gandhi and adopted this nonviolent, method and applied it here. Do we actually start having what the civil rights movement? We actually had actual change on a legal level. It wasn't through violence because that just begat more violence. It was through nonviolence that we actually, us as a black people, start to see true change within this thing called slavery and oppression. And so I would encourage that as an awesome model to see that when we do apply these things in the world, it's only through these nonviolence and true acceptance, through any true solutions to come about.
for
And any
sure,
other thing just continues the process of violence, whether it's
for sure.
categorized as something else.
Yeah, and same for Nelson Mandela in South
Yes.
Africa and apartheid. But what a huge amount of spiritual discipline and strength it would take to not respond the way that most everybody would want to respond, which is violent response to folks who have inflicted so much violence upon you. Appreciate your sharing that. There was that one passage about Gandhi. Their quote said something to the effect that Gandhi had a level of cleverness that usually is only seen in folks on the service to self path, but he was able to use that cleverness in ways in service to others to defeat the British Empire with nonviolence. Super great story. What do you think, Andrea? Anything to add?
Yeah, absolutely. I love this passage. And from personal experience, when I was much younger, I was curious in everything occult. So I read up on a ton of things and read up on black magic, white magic. For me, the curiosity was around the black magic as to, okay, but like, really? Is there really a demon hound coming? Really? And like, okay, but you can bind these things, but like, what's the purpose? Like, why would you want to voodoo doll somebody? Like, don't you have better things to do with your life? Like, I don't know, go get a hobby, go read a book. So to me, it was really just that curiosity to be like, okay, what is this thing that everybody's talking about, or this occult thing? And I was like, okay, so you got to do weird rituals in the middle of the cemetery at night. I'm like, I have other hobbies. I don't have the patience for this. But like Vicky said, it's a choice.
Can't they take up gardening or something? Yeah.
I know, just be like, okay. One thing I really love about this passage, though, is when it talks about the negative emotions on the second side. It's specifically the like fear, anger, hatred, and disgust. And I like the disgust part because we often, say, oh, negative is anger, it's fear, that's negative. I hate something, that's negative. Well, disgust is there too. Curiously enough, when you look at, for me, broccoli, somebody that eats broccoli and loves broccoli, I'm like, ew, what's wrong with you? Somebody that, does things that society would call disgusting, it's interesting. That's also a negative reaction, right? And we have to kind of look at that and say, well, it's not something I would have chosen. That's an interesting choice to put, shredded cheese on a broccoli and microwave it, but okay, you do you. And like you said, if we are the creator, right? We're puppeteering ourselves. We're watching other people make weird choices and just go, not something I would have picked, not my catalyst, not my monkey, not my circus kind of thing. Good luck, have fun with that, and just kind of stick to you with the choices you want to make and have that conscious decision to say, yeah, I will accept my catalysts. I'll work through them. I'll meditate. I'll bring and shine love. Or if you're listening to this and you're on the other side, knock yourself out, do the opposite, whatever floats your boat. Just not my choice. That's all.
Yeah, as Ra has said, control is the key to processing catalyst on the service to self path. It's all about controlling others, controlling self, and acceptance is key to processing catalyst on the service to others path, which means being willing to accept some of the things that seem most horrific and difficult to accept, for sure. I think I mentioned shadow work earlier, and yeah, we did a podcast episode on this on a while back, because so much of what they're describing here really is, I think, about taking your shadow self and rather than pushing it away or trying to defeat it, but rather embracing it and loving it and trying to accept it as part of yourself, for sure. There was one other part that we haven't talked about that I thought was interesting, and that was in the first paragraph here. They're talking a lot about how both paths, service to self and service to others, start in the dark and work in the darkness, and that their common ground is darkness. And I know it reminded me a lot of the matrix of the spirit and what Quo said here in terms of the kingdom of the spirit is a dark one. And we say this not because darkness is evil, for darkness is not evil. Or what Ross said in 8010, the melody, shall we say, of this matrix often seems to be of a negative and evil, as you would call it, nature. Super interesting that both those on the path of light and dark start in the darkness, and that darkness is not good and it's not evil. It's just part of the nature of spirit. I find that super interesting. Panelists, this is what we call an audible. I did not share this passage with you in advance, so you haven't had a chance to see this or think about it. So does anybody have any thoughts on this? If not, we can just go on from there.
Yeah, you bring up a really good point, and this kind of starts with the 3D, right? In 3D, we start doing the work for light or dark, or service to self, service to others, because in 2D, and that's animals, right? They don't care. They just live. They're just reacting. If they will go get food and they will eat the food, they will go attack somebody for something and then they will defend themselves. There is no, I'm doing this for the greater good. There's not, I'm doing this for myself. I'm going to sit here. And so we all do start as 2D in darkness, right? We evolve into 3D and start going, I wonder if I get extra resources for me. What does that look like? I wonder if I share my resources that I found, the patch of blueberries, with somebody else. And that does make a lot of sense, right? We do have to have some sort of neutral starting ground and then evolve from there. And welcome evolution. That's how we got to 3D.
But it's interesting that it starts in the dark. The common ground is dark, as opposed to we all start in the light, which I'm thinking, I don't know, could have been.
You can't find darkness in the light. That's the thing. If something is bright, you're in a bright room. There's no shade. There's no darkness. You cannot make darkness from the light. if you are in the dark, you can make light. Sorry, if you're in the dark, you can make light, but not vice versa, right?
Wow, good point. Yeah, well said. I had not thought of it that way. That makes perfect sense. Anybody else? Anthony, Vicky, did you have any thoughts on anything here?
Yeah, only thing I was going to say is I definitely thought of this card because of the primordial darkness. Because
Right.
Quo and Rob mentioned that as being a place where the soul or the spirit complex it begins its evolution at. And so I definitely concur with you on pointing that card out too as well. As my son is jumping around.
Yeah, thank you. Vicky, any thoughts to add on this?
Yes, I have a few quick ones. For me, the dark is actually the not knowing.
Right.
In if I compare it to the light, or it's a starting point that I don't know anything. I'm starting in dark, and I start adding stuff. So I start adding light to the not knowing. I could also compare it with the veil, that we have forgotten everything and we start from the beginning, from scratch.
Right. Yeah, I think what you're saying about the veil reminds me of what they're saying here about living spirit within the third density illusion is hidden within the deep and unlit roots of mind. That would make sense. It's on the other side of the veil of forgetting. So it's deep in the subconscious, unconscious mind that we really can't see. So it is dark in that sense. Yeah, beautiful thoughts. Appreciate everyone sharing on that. If it's okay with you, let's go ahead. And there was a podcast episode we did on archetypes of the spirit. So viewers, if you want to learn more about that, check out that episode. Otherwise, let's look at a few passages on best protection. Pop quiz, viewers. What did Ra say in one word is the best protection from psychic greetings? If you said love.
Love.
Well done. You are correct. Extra karma point for you. In 75.2, Ra said there is no protection greater than love. 64.21. As always, love is the greatest protection. 55.2. There is no magic greater than honest distortion towards love. 32.1. Ra says, see the self and the other self as creator. Open the heart. Always know the light and praise it. This is all the protection necessary. And on May 16th, 1993, Latwii, who's 1/3 of the Quo group, said there is no greater magic nor healing than the love, the forgiveness, and the compassion for those who walk upon the path of evolution for you. I really love the suggestion here that it really isn't any more complicated than that. There really is no better response to the worst psychic attacks you could suffer other than love. What a beautiful thing. What do you think, Anthony? Any thoughts on anything here?
Yeah, I would say as a fan of anime, which if anyone watches anime here, it always is the love of like something, the love of the master or the love of your friend or the love of the planet that ends up giving them this huge ultimate power. And I find that also too, it goes back to what I was speaking about with Gandhi. It was not the anger that it's not the anger that Gandhi had toward the Great Britain, but the love and compassion, the patience that they shown, and the sacrifice that sent from that allowed them to be free of that. And so it's once again, it's the law of one showing itself to be true. Because if you really do the acid test and look in your own life at the times in which you had trials and tribulations and love was applied, the answer or the response may not be quick, but the end result is solid, and it usually it's finished, and usually is well, and it's good. Where when you respond with anger, with quickly, especially with kids, and your first response is anger and frustration. Yeah, it may satisfy something within yourself, right? My kid may stop whatever he was doing because I may have popped him, right? But in the long run, how does that help, right? Mom's now he built a complex or something every time he touches the TV because dad popped his hand every time he touches the TV, right? So there's a whole other ways that we can look at these types of things. But I've learned that love and patience and compassion and all the things that stem from love usually is always the more sound answer than the things that stem from fear, which is hate and all those things. Right?
And same as you suggested before for Martin Luther King and Nelson Mandela. Really powerful magic, I would think, to respond to hatred, violence from your opponents, shall we say, and responding with love instead of anger and violence. That's not an easy thing to do. Highest power of magic, I would think.
I would say
What do you
well.
think?
I
Yeah,
was going to say well said to call it magic because that's exactly what it is. 'Cause it takes much disciplining of the personality. It takes much practice when someone spits in your face to offer them the other cheek without it being some type of contentment, without it being some type of understanding. So, like Andrea said, it's in the body. You want to react like ah,
right,
but to
right,
discipline oneself and go, you know what? I could see how I could spit in the face. You know what? Here, friend, here's the other
right,
one. You know, why you at it? Let
right,
me give you my shirt, my clothes, and all these things because you're obviously in
right.
a bad place.
Yeah, the automatic knee jerk reflex reaction would be to respond to hatred with hatred or violence with violence. But I believe, as they have said many times, magic is the ability to change consciousness at will. So be able to take a automatic, violent, hateful thought and to be able to transmute it into love and forgiveness and acceptance. That is magic, I would think, of the highest order. What do you think, Andrea? Anything to add?
Yeah, no, I love that, and I love it. No pun intended. The one thing I'll say is I find the word love being thrown around so often when it comes to spirituality, and it's so hard to like. What is love? Is loving a partner? Is loving a pet? It's loving broccoli or bacon or like what exactly is that? And what I want to add here is sometimes it's hard to decipher what is love. You know, sometimes it's hard to kind of, you can put a definition to it. Cool. Do you feel it? Maybe not. And to kind of, for me, to help build that practice up is besides the guide, the meta meditations where you kind of love yourself and love others. If you can't find that and that's just too hard to love yourself, you're still kind of working through your shadows and your things. Find something you do enjoy. Maybe you enjoy thunder or rain, or maybe you love ants, or maybe you love rocks. Find a 1D or 2D thing that is brings you joy and brings you love, and take that love and build upon it every day. I don't know, look at ants every day. Look at lizards, look at funny videos with pets, whatever that thing is that brings you happiness and love. Once you start building that, that's kind of how you start then saying, okay, maybe I love pets. Cool. Okay, I do have the capacity love. Okay, maybe I love this person. Maybe I love myself. Maybe I love the people I don't like. Okay, maybe I love the universe, right? It's kind of build that up
Yeah,
because it's easy for us to say and for Ra to say, like, it's all about love. And like they say, you
right.
can't just band-aid your way to say, oh, I love it. I love it. I'm 100%. I love it. That doesn't work, right? You have to actually build the practice and start small. Yeah, I think that's really important before we jump
Yeah,
into the whole love the evil entities or darkness and tickle monsters and whatever is out there. Yeah,
well
just
said.
build that practice.
Yeah, it goes back to what we said at the very beginning in terms of what is the law of one. We defined it as a set of spiritual teachings based on the understanding that all is one and that one thing is love. And I know Quo has said a few times that, yeah, they're using the word love in a very different way than we use love when we say we love pizza or broccoli or our spouse or whatever. They're talking about love as a force that creates and destroys. It's the force that creates life as well as destroys life and breaks down life and food chains and such. So, yeah, good reminder. Vicky, anything to add?
Yeah, I think love is the absolute medicine for our density, isn't it? This is what we're working for. So even psychologically speaking, when someone is feeling loved, they feel safe. They feel completion inside them. The fear disappears. It's even people who are violent or they do, let's say, bad stuff to other people. It's because of lack of love, isn't it? If we examine it in the deepest levels, it's the lack of love behind it. So yeah, I think it's all about it. It's all about our density and everything. So if we show love to whatever happens to us, then if it's bad, it's gonna disarm it. I think it's, or we will accept it in the name of love. We will accept the sacrifice. It will happen either of the
Well said.
two.
Yeah, I believe they have said it more than a few times that love is the answer to every question and the solution to every problem. And I mean, it sounds dorky. It sounds like it's too simple, too good to be true. And yet, the more I have reflected on it and thought about it, it's like, it is true. It's really that simple. Whatever the problem is, whatever the question is, love is probably the best answer, best
I
solution.
do want to, yeah, I want to add one more thing is when we, and like you said, Rob mentioned it, like the love is not, it's not the word that we use. It's the word that the best appropriation, but it's not quite right because even now when we talk about love and we say there's a problem, love it and it'll go away, we're doing a conditional thing. I know that I will love it, therefore it will go away. But what if I love it and it doesn't go away? Does that still count as love, right? Will I still love it the same and the same amount of force or empathy towards love if it doesn't go away, if it's still there even after I love it, right? We're using this as a conditional, if this then that. If I love it, everything will be great. What if it's not, right? That's still love, and it's really hard for us in this density and society and world to go through it. But we got to just use our best impression of it, right? We got to baby step our way through it.
Right. Yeah, I appreciate your sharing that. That is why I tend to capitalize the words love and light when I use them in slideshows. They were not capitalized in the original transcripts, but because I feel that, again, they're using those words in a different way than we use them commonly, then I thought, yeah, they deserve capitalization. It does remind me, there was, I think it was passages in the Bible where it was said that the sun shines on the just and the unjust, the rain falls on the good and the bad. And I think that kind of is touching on what you're talking about. That love doesn't only go to the people that we like or that we think deserve that love. That love goes to everywhere and everything. At least that's what we're shooting for. Anybody else? Any other thoughts on this before we change topics, change passage?
I would just say that one thing that's really, when you start to look into love, it's one thing that does not have a polarity. It is all things. It is the good, the bad, the light and dark. Fear, the opposite of that is compassion, right? Anger is acceptance. But with love, it's just love. And so when you start to look at it from that angle, it can be, for some, it may be helpful, and for others, it may add a little bit of confusion. But as I look deeper into it, it's something that is beyond what we describe. I think more so what we experience as love is more conditional. It's like I heard this parable one time in Buddhism where the person was eating a fish. And the person's like, "Man, you really love that fish," and the guy was like, "Yeah, man, I really love it." He's like, "Well, why did you kill it and eat it then?" It's not that he loves the fish, but he loves how the fish made him feel. Right. And so often, if you're in a relationship, it's like that. That person stops making you feel that honeymoon phase, and now all of a sudden, stress comes into the relationship, and everything changes. Right. And so, love is beyond the love that we're speaking of. Audience is beyond like the love that you feel with your mother and father. It's a love that encompasses all.
Right. Yeah, it's really interesting what you said a few minutes ago, that love has no polarity. I know, I never thought of it that way, and I don't think I've ever heard anybody say that. And yet, yeah, I believe that is 100% true in the law of one, that the law of one blinks neither at the light or dark, and that it's available for both service to self and service to others' path. And as they have said, there's nothing in the universe that's not made of love, including the most horrific, heinously negative thing that you could think of. They would just say, well, it's a more distorted form of love than what maybe you're used to or what you practice, but it is still love. Because, yeah, interesting. Love is no polarity. I will have to remember that one. Anybody else? Any thoughts on anything before we change slides? Cool. Well, let us remind the viewers that we did a podcast episode on magic that you might want to check out, and on light workers that touch on a lot of things that we've spoken about already and go into it in more depth. Otherwise, for now, let's take a look at protection rituals. For those who are interested, there are, in fact, a number of protection rituals that Rod described in detail for anyone wanting to cleanse their space, shall we say, of negative energies or entities. We're not going to discuss them in detail here, but if you are interested, here's how you can find them. Just go to the LNL research page and click on the channeling tab, and then select raw contact from the drop-down menu. And then you're going to have to scroll down a fair bit down the page past all of the sessions down to the supplementary resources, and you'll see something there called protection rituals. And then when you click on that, you'll see that there are a number of them. I circled the 3 that I have done that I am familiar with: the banishing ritual, the garlic ritual, and the salt cleansing ritual. They're really easy to do. And again, if you click on the links, they'll tell you how you can use garlic and salt to cleanse your space of negative entities who apparently don't like garlic or get absorbed by salt and water if you use them. Banishing ritual, I think, is something that a lot of folks are familiar with, including panelists. Andrea, did you say you have any familiarity with any of these?
Well, I was born in Transylvania and Romania, so garlic and me, not a huge fan of it. In small quantities, it's okay. That being said, no, I haven't done any of the rituals, and for me, I don't find that I need rituals. I've kind of stepped through my journey in the Law of One, and right now, and that might change in the future, but right now, I find that I'm comfortable with where I am, and if negative energies or negative entities or negative myself, or parts of myself that come up, I can work through meditation and just accept them and love them and kind of move that. However, I will say that in general, if there are like talismans, amulets, or things like crystals that have a lot of energy and prior like energy buildups, I would say, things that people have done over and over, and there's a lot of emphasis put on them. There's a lot of positive energy. It is like a little boost. It's like using a little battery pack to kind of get yourself a little extra light. So I know that they do work, and I wouldn't knock them by any means. However, I find myself not really needing them or interested in kind of using them right now. But I would love to hear all of your guys' experiences on them.
Yeah. Yeah, and I appreciate your sharing that for openers, because I agree it would be important for viewers to know none of these things are particularly important or necessary. If you don't feel like the presence of negative entities or energies in your space, then I wouldn't worry about them. I wouldn't bother. But if you do, this is some things that can be helpful. Vicky, any thoughts on anything here?
Yes, in regards to the protection rituals, I use banishing ritual every day in the area where I meditate. And I also do another one called the magic circle, which is to protect usually the area where I sleep during the night.
Nice. Yeah. I also make a practice of doing the banishing ritual in the morning as a positive blessing invocation, and then in the evening as a banishing thing. And sometimes I'm doing it just for my own private space, and sometimes I'm doing it for the whole earth. I visualize those pentagrams going out and surrounding the earth and blessing, protecting the earth as well. Anthony, any thoughts on any of these rituals?
I've practiced the banishing ritual in the Circle of One personally on a regular basis. And the Circle of One, I've more altered for myself because it's something more so that's done with the group and for Raw. So I kind of changed it a little bit. But the one thing I want to point out, though, is that I don't do them necessarily as the word protection. I understand why we chose that word or why the website chose that word, but I more so think of it as a cleaning or kind of a purifying of the space. Because I'm not trying to battle with anyone, and I don't need any need for protection for myself. But it's a way of really tuning the room or tuning the space, especially if you meditate in a place consistently, you'll find, at least I have in my own personal experience, that especially meditating outside, that you'll find that less spiders will show up, less little bugs will crawl around that little area, especially if you put a lot of good intention in that. And so I have the experience of that, of really blessing a little space over a period of a year, or 2 years, 3 years of sitting in the same particular space. And it really helps with kind of figuring out the bugs and all of those things.
Nice. I have not tried that. I will have to try that sometime.
I will add one more thing if I can here. I find that so I have ADHD. So my habits and me don't get along very well. And the whole 30 days to build a habit, yeah, no, that's not a thing. At least for myself, I should say. So that's one of the things. Even meditation is challenging to kind of keep consistent, like every day. It's usually not. Maybe it's before bed sometimes. But yeah, they'd be great. Like if I ever find myself in a situation where just a lot of negativity and I'm struggling with things, I could definitely see myself pulling this up and just saying, okay, let's do a one shot this without setting it as, I know I have to do it daily, I have to do it quarterly. Just a, hey, I need an extra little boost, I need an extra little cleaning, housekeeping, like Anthony said. Why not? But it can work both ways, right? So to those that use it every day or multiple times a day, but also to the ones that use it once in a while, the magic, quote unquote, is still there. The energy and the intention is still there. And because it's been used by other people, it carries extra weight. It carries extra love and light rather than just making up your own words. But whatever works, yeah.
Well said. Beautifully said. Yeah, I think much of this is about your mind and your state of mind and whether you feel the need for it or not, or whether you feel better or not after you're doing it. So appreciate that. Why don't we go ahead and look at one last topic, and that is angels. On November 23rd, 2001, Quo said, "There is help for those who wish to rise. There is an enormous company, as this instrument has often said, of angels, beings that wish only to help entities to evolve and to cherish them while they do, to keep them in a metaphysical sense safe and comfortable. There are angels around each of you. They truly desire to be of service. When you sit in the silence, lean into that help and ask that invisible company to give you signs, give you ideas, help with the guidance, help with the duties, so that you can choose what feels the most resonant as your own path of service." And on December 29th, 2007, Quo said, "Help is all around you. We cannot emphasize that enough. There are angelic presences all around you that have been attracted by your purity of desire and intentions. They wish nothing more than to help you achieve the goals that you have set for yourself this day." And on November 24th, 2002, Quo said, "How greatly each entity's guidance system wishes to help. We give this instrument the image of a dozen angels sitting all about the living room on curtain rods and window sills and the tops of bookcases, just hoping and waiting to be asked." So much beautiful imagery in there. That last one about the angels sitting around on bookcases and windowsills always cracks me up when I read it. But yeah, really appreciate it. That again, they can be of great assistance. And I have made a habit in, I don't know, the last year or two of starting each day thanking my spirit guides and guardian angels and higher self for their help, and asking them this day, each day, to help me do what I came to this incarnation to do and to help me be of service to others. And I have definitely noticed changes and noticed a lot of help as a result. What do you think, Vicky? Any thoughts on anything here?
I haven't been very familiar with the angels or contacting them or having any signs from them, but yeah, it seems that we can have a more straightforward communication with them, like because they're closer to us and they can offer some help that is in hand at that moment, maybe more quickly. I don't know. This is my understanding.
Yeah.
It's worth trying it, definitely. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's the point they're making again and again. The help is there. Everyone has help, but they won't violate free will. So you do have to ask them for help. They will not help if you don't ask them to. So that would be a key. Anthony, what do you think? Any thoughts?
Oh yeah, when I was reading that, when you sent that to us ahead of time, reading that last quote there, it reminded me of Homecoming when we were doing the channeling, and I was like really deep meditation, and I had that vision in my mind, literally like every single one of Jim's tree branches, and all the different places, there were different little angels and little fairies and all kinds of things surrounding us, just all like singing and happy that we were all gathering and being in that place. So definitely resonated with that, and just as I said before in other podcasts, I have a love-hate relationship with my higher self. Sometimes I love them, and a lot of times I'm cussing at it because I don't understand why if it's so great, come down to switching places. I love to take some time up there. We can make the switch, but I definitely understand it and grateful for all the help because I don't think I'd be able to make it here if it wasn't for some of the things I've learned in the Law of One and some of the practices and all the help that I've gotten. I'm pretty sure all of you have received from those
Sure.
those spiritual older brothers and sisters. So I am grateful for all the help.
Yeah, guidance system, the term they used in the last paragraph, is something that they've used that phrase quite a few times in channeling sessions, and I've never seen it anywhere else. But it does refer to the coalition, shall we say, of guardian angels, spirit guides that have committed to helping each of us do what we came to this incarnation to do. And as they said, the more you are pure in your desire to be of service to others, the more they're attracted to that purity of intention. And it's a beautiful thing to imagine that when groups of people gather, like at homecoming gatherings, then it's not just the physical people who are there, but it's all the guidance systems and guardian angels and spirit guides who are gathered there also, which is a beautiful thing to contemplate. Andrea, what do you think? Any thoughts?
Yeah, absolutely. So, a few thoughts on this. Originally, when I was kind of trying to find spirituality and going through the different, nope, this isn't going to work for me. Nope, I don't believe in this. I don't believe in that. Angel kind of ties to Christianity or some sort of Catholic type of religion, and that usually has a visceral nah, that the reaction to me. And for the longest time, anytime any readings had to do with angels or the creator, the god, I was like hiss, not my thing. I've started to kind of accept the word. The angel is interchangeable with fairies, with any some religions believe in ancestors, right? The ancestors gives you powers. The ancestor give you so it's the same thing. It's really just other selves. And actually, yeah, in the last 2 months, I've started before bed just having a quick meditation around thank you, other selves, and thank you, guardian angels. Still don't quite like the word angels. Still have a little bit of a when I hear it and where I
How
say
about
it.
spirit guides? Is spirit guides a more palatable term?
Yeah, I like that a lot more. However, I'm also very independent. And curiously enough, before the Law of One, I didn't really like to call upon other help. It was more, no, I will do it. I will figure this out myself. And now I'm kind of like, well, it is technically still me, so it still counts as independence. Yay! Okay, other
Right.
selves, please come help me here.
Yeah.
So I will say, though, like you, Jonathan, I do find that there's been a shift. There's a lot
Nice.
more positive things that are happening. Well, that I would call positive, but also experiences that are just kind of landing on my lap. And I'm like, oh, I've always wanted to try that. Oh, that's interesting. We'll take that. Okay, I'll try this.
Nice.
Ever since I started before bed having that meditation to thank them and to say, please, welcome to guide me. I am your MBS, my body system. Just help yourself. I'm your little puppet. Make it so, make it happen. Whatever you choose, I'll be fine with it. And thank you for all your help. So I will say, if you don't like the word, use another. But they're there to help you, and you are there to help yourself. It is you. It's your other selves. So why not, right?
Yeah. Treat it like a science experiment. Test it out, try it out, see what happens, and go from there. It is funny. I am reminded there are quite a few passages where Quo did say something to the effect that they have appeared to many as angelic beings, but they realized at some point that people aren't really that interested in angels. They're more interested in aliens. So they said, we decided to get rid of the halos and put on masks as extraterrestrials instead, which I think is hilarious. And there are quite a few times where they refer to the Confederation as the Confederation of Angels and Planets in the service of the Infinite Creator. That I think is funny. So viewers, make out of that what you will. How about one more passage? We got one last passage to look at. This is from Latwii, and it was from November 3rd, 1979, and it has been edited for brevity. But they said, it depends upon your state of belief as to whether angels can physically aid you. If you believe in their reality, they can do almost anything, for grace is given unto those who believe. And the angels are the ministers of that grace. They are people such as you, who had learned through many times to glorify and praise the Creator. Thus, having learned, the angel can pass on the power and the invocation of light. There is nothing more powerful than the light of the Spirit. It is, however, incumbent upon the angel to know the limits of the laws of creation and the will of the Father or Mother. Thus, the angel's laws are not those of your illusion, but those of reality. And so it may seem at times that your requests are not being met. And if this is so, it is because it is not the will of your higher self which shares the perfection of the Creator. For remember that you yourself are the co-creator with the Creator, and thus a perfect being, who in some part of yourself knows what you must learn and how you must learn it in this particular experience. Those who make complete use of their meditation, their prayer, and their faith lead the life of harmony that you would expect of one who lives with the knowledge of the love and the plan of the Creator. The angels are simply messengers of his love, as are we. There are very, very few times when I've seen contradictions in passages, but I think this one where they're saying that angels are people like you who have learned through many lifetimes to glorify and praise the Creator, that seems to contradict what I've heard them say in other sessions where they would say angels have never incarnated as people. They are discarnate beings. But I would say, in comparison, in context of the whole passage, I don't find that a particularly important point. I do like the part about the angel can pass on the power and the invocation of light. There is nothing more powerful than the light of the Spirit. That, I think, is super beautiful and true and powerful. What do you think, Anthony? Any thoughts on anything here?
Definitely. I think if you switch out angels for guides in that first paragraph, it makes sense then. Just as Andrea was saying, you can intertrain them. And I think specifically what you're talking about, the law of one, if you're looking at the cosmology, we have the 24 archangels or the 24 angels that help the council make decisions that the council can't come to a decision. Those are completely separate than, I believe, the angels they're talking about here. And so I completely concur. What I would also back on or double back on is the co-creator aspect, and something I've been really looking at personally has been coming up in my own YouTube feeds and really relates back to law of one is so often I find myself not necessarily having negative thoughts, but thoughts that don't support me. In the sense that maybe there's a bill coming up and I'm worried that I might not be able to pay a bill, or there's a problem or a scenario and I'm allowing myself to think negatively about it. As a co-creator, one thing I'm starting to realize is the majority of or whatever I'm experiencing now is the result of all the thoughts I've had up to this point, right? And if the majority of the thoughts I've had to this point, they may not be like negative or self-serving in the sense that I want to go kill or hurt or maim someone, but it may be, and Carla, Ron mentioned this in Carla, it may be a sense of unworthiness. Like, oh, I'm afraid that I may not get this money, right? And that's a lack of faith. But as it says here, those who make the complete use of all these different tools and really apply themselves, these things come about naturally. Like the things that come up, like Andrea said, hey, I don't mind trying this. Oh, I don't mind doing this thing. I don't mind doing the other thing, right? Because it's a natural flow. And that's because of a faith that all is well, that all of these things are going to work out just fine. I may not have the money that comes up for me to pay my bill, but if I lose my house, it's because there's something that's better for me on the next thing. I may not be able to get that next job interview, but it's because something else is better for me. And in that, you can attract those types of things. And also, too, I'll end on this note, the negative entities can only accentuate or enhance what we're already thinking about. And so if in my mind, I'm thinking, man, I'm not going to have enough money to pay this bill. Guess what my friends on the opposite side now have? I'm just giving them a new tool, a new chink in my armor to then apply pressure to if they wanted to, right? Or even within my own, within our own, we don't talk about this here, but there are thought forms within our own mind that we create. These programs in our own mind that will be triggered because of these types of things, and they will then ruminate and go over and perpetuate these thoughts. And these things have to be addressed and looked at too as well. And so and they all happen through love and acceptance. So
I appreciate what you said early on, where you were saying that the thoughts we have now are pretty much the result of all the thoughts accumulated up to that point. Again, it's an interesting way to frame it that I don't think I've ever really thought of that way, and I don't think I've ever heard anybody say it that way before. But yeah, I agree. Totally makes sense. It makes me think of footpaths. I mean, we've got neural pathways in our brain that have been well established by all the many times that we have followed that path. And so it is a challenge to reprogram the brain and try to reroute it so that rather than having your thoughts go the way they normally do, to route them in another direction. We did a podcast episode on reprogramming the biocomputer about that very thing. Check it out, viewers. What do you think, Andrea? Anything to add?
Yeah, absolutely. We'll skip over the part that the older channelings for me don't resonate around the language of faith and, hit father and, angels and stuff. But the message is, I think, really relevant to me. Again, like I said, I just recently started in the last few months to start calling and thanking the guardian angels and just guardian selves, protectors, guides, whatever we want to call them. They get different names before, but depending on how tired I am. But just calling upon that and, saying, thank you for this opportunity, and I'm here for you. I am your vessel, in a sense, of your puppet. I'll accept whatever you bring over, and thank you for letting me, and helping me co-create this. So I do like that message a lot, and I think you're right. It does. I mean, they're right, but also we're right. It depends on what you believe, and if your belief is that there isn't, go for it. If you want to, like, I believe that it's no, just me, myself, and I'm going to tough it out. I'm going to work through this. I'll figure it out. Cool. My beliefs can change, and now I can accept and know that I'm not alone. I have other selves that are not incarnated, that are just hanging out and they got nothing better to do. They're just kind of hanging out. Be like, what you going on there? Ooh, watch this. She's going to stub her toe. And other times they're like, oh, we're going to avoid the toe stub. Watch this. Oh, to the right. There you go. She'll never even know. So I think it's whatever you believe in, whatever you believe is okay. Go for it. But yeah, feel free to change it. Nothing wrong with that.
And it is interesting how much difference words can make, because earlier in your comments, I was definitely mentally agreeing that, all the times when they use gender-specific pronouns, he, she, him, especially with regard to the creator, kind of irks me too, and I'm really tempted to change them on the slideshows, but I don't think I'm quite willing to make that much change in the transcripts. But I did actually have a question that I was going to put to Quo at some point, if Quo was willing to set the record straight and say that every time they use a gender-specific pronoun, that seems to apply to pretty much everybody. Would you agree that that applies to everybody, regardless of gender identity or sexual orientation? I would love to hear what they say on that.
I think, and I'll just one last thing. I think that this is because when the channeling first started, there was that belief from Carla, like she had the personal beliefs.
Sure.
It's very religious, right?
For sure.
Again, nothing wrong with any of it.
Sure.
Totally fair. But in order for those channelings to be aligned, and instead of coming up as, hey, random alien spirit on 6th density is going to say co-create whatever, well, that doesn't match very well and jive with God. It doesn't jive with angels. So it would have been such a clash in beliefs that the channelings would not have gone through clearly. So it was whatever language. So that's how I take the early and
even the more recent ones. I mean, Jim himself is still a fairly devout Christian, even if he doesn't attend church services or anything. And I think it would be fair to say that Gary and Trish and Austin aren't particularly Christian, but I can think of many times in more recent channeling sessions that I've seen still gender-specific pronouns where they didn't really need to be. But it's part of the mental programming, I suppose. That's still part of it. Oh, what do you think, Vicky? Anything to add? Any thoughts?
Yes, regards to the faith, I would like to talk a little bit. I'm not a religious person as well, but I try to have faith to the plan that I created before I incarnate in this life. So every time, my mind tries to create scenarios of, okay, what if this happens, then I can do this, and then I can do that. And this gets very tiring. So when I let that go and I trust the plan, I feel like I make myself more open to the countless possibilities that can happen to me that might be best for me, rather than me trying to schedule everything. And I also feel the love a little bit more at that point. Because when we let go, we let go of the negative feelings and the stress and everything. So we let the love come in. We let the plan play out itself and do whatever it needs to do, because we are the co-creators. So we created that plan before we come here. So we let it happen and stop stretching.
Yeah, and I think kind of goes back to what we were saying earlier about acceptance being a key to the path of service to others, being able to accept things that seem really difficult to accept, to resist the urge to control them rather than accepting. Really appreciate the conversation, folks. We've been going for nearly an hour and a half, so if it's okay with you, I'm going to go ahead and start winding things down. Where do we go from here? What are some take-home lessons we might have from our discussion today? I have 5 for your consideration. If you can remember that most psychic greetings or attacks actually come from self rather than other, I'd say that's pretty worth remembering. And that love is, in fact, the best protection. And to see the enemy, so-called enemy, as an other self, as an other creator, instead of another person or bad person. And that, yes, there are garlic and salt rituals that you could use to cleanse your space of negative entities or energies that can be found at the LNL research site. I forgot to mention smudge. I used to smudge the house regularly, and I think that is also a helpful way to cleanse a living space. And lastly, that there are many, many angels who can help, but they have to be asked. What do you think, Andrea? Any final takeaway lessons of your own you'd like to add?
Meditation, drink lots of water, get a good therapist, and know thyself. Do whatever you need to. It's your life. You control it, and you yourself and higher self and other guides. So, choose whatever path works for you and just keep trying. If the thing doesn't work, try another thing. Eventually, you'll find something that resonates and something that works, and then stick with that. It will come.
Nice. Yeah, and to go back, something you said very early in the podcast, it is possible that the best defense against the dark arts is to lighten up, to be able to laugh, to dispel that energy. What do you think, Vicky? Anything to add?
I think Andrea said it all. I agree with her 100%.
Nice. And Anthony?
I would just say love is the greatest protection. I think that's probably the biggest thing to take away from it is just to have that attitude towards everything, and to really apply it is a challenge. Yeah. But it's great. It's a great win.
For sure. Well, much enjoyed the conversation and always learn a lot from you guys. So thank you so much for being here. Did want to let our viewers know that if you enjoyed this podcast episode, you might want to check out our episode on magic and our episode on spiritual alchemy, not that long ago, but it was much about converting dark into light, negative energies into positive energies. Light workers, angels and archangels, shadow work, and fearless. All great episodes that go more in depth into things that we touched on today. Otherwise, it is time for our pop quiz. Pop quiz, of course, is something we like to do at the end of our podcast, just to end our otherwise serious discussions on a lighter note, and maybe look for Law of One connections in pop culture. Panelists, since today's episode was about defense against the dark arts, any guesses what the pop quiz is about today?
Star Wars?
Good guess.
Harry Potter.
Good guess. Harry Potter indeed would be a perfectly reasonable thing to do our pop quiz on, but honestly, I'm not really that big a fan of Harry Potter, so I've got one question about Harry Potter, where we got the name from this episode from. But otherwise, today's pop quiz is about demon movies that prominently feature demons. I'm going to ask you 3 questions about 3 movies that feature demons prominently. See how many you can answer correctly. Panelists, go ahead, say your answers out loud so our viewers can hear you through space-time. Viewers, go ahead, say your answers out loud so we can hear you through time-space. As always, the points don't matter. If you had fun, you won. If you learned something cool and interesting, you won. Are you ready for your first question?
Let's do it.
First question is indeed from Harry Potter, and the question is, who was the defense against the dark arts instructor in Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix? Was it A, Quirinus Quirrell, B, Gilderoy Lockhart, C, Dolores Umbridge, or D, Mad-Eye Moody?
Moody. I'm pretty sure. It's been a while since I watched it.
Yeah, I haven't only seen like one of those movies. I haven't seen them all, but yeah, like the Mad Eye guy looks like he definitely would be the one. But
great actor, Brendan Gleeson. He's done.
Actually, no, it's Dolores. Movies. I take it back. It's C, Dolores. Yeah, take it back.
Nice. You had a revelation. Are you getting help from your higher self? That's cheating. That's not allowed. Maybe. What do you think, Vicky? Any guesses? Did you watch any Harry Potter movies?
I have, but it was a long time ago, so I don't remember. I'll just say B randomly.
Nice. Good guess. Correct answer is indeed C, Dolores Umbridge. She was in that movie as well as the one that came after Wit, which I forget because I lost interest after like the fourth movie or thing. But yeah, really good character, really good villain, super scary in her own like church lady kind of way. Interestingly enough, the actress who played that role, Dame Imelda Staunton, Dame would be the female equivalent of a knight in the British Empire. She's got an incredible resume. She has, over her career, several awards, including British Academy Film Award, 5 Laurence Olivier Awards, as well as nominations for Academy Award, Golden Globe, Emmys. On stage, she's received 14 Laurence Olivier Award nominations, winning Best Supporting Role in a Play for all of these. She was Oscar nominated for all of these, and apparently has done a lot of musicals. Apparently she's a really good singer, in addition to being a badass headmaster of Hogwarts. And she's apparently in Downton Abbey, too, for anyone who watches that series. Are you ready for your next question? Your next question. True or false? K-pop Demon Hunters is Netflix's most watched movie ever.
I'm going to say true. Yes.
I think so. My kids know about it. My kids tell me about it before, yeah.
Yeah. Vicky, what do you think?
I'd say no, I haven't heard of it.
Oh, interesting. Well, you clearly don't watch a lot of Netflix because, yes, it is the number one. This is just Netflix movies, original movies. But yeah, it's at the top compared to all of the rest of these, some of which I've seen before. But yeah, I'm not really I tried watching it. Miriam and I got about 15 minutes into it, and I just thought, yeah, this isn't working for me. Not that interesting.
It's not surprising. Kids are obsessive about things. I mean, so are some adults, but I mean, kids would watch it on repeat for a million times. So yeah, not surprising.
Oh, maybe that's how it got. Yeah, that makes sense. How about your last question? Which form of protection from vampires was used in Sinners was also recommended by Raw? Was it A, salt, B, garlic, C, banishing ritual, or D, love?
I haven't seen this movie, but I'm going to say salt.
I think it was garlic. Yeah, the B.
Nice. Have you seen it, Andrew?
No, haven't seen it, but I know what I'm watching now.
It's a good movie. I gotta admit, I'm not a fan of the horror genre in general, and I tried watching this like twice, and I got about 15 minutes in. Again, that's like my attention span for movies, and it wasn't working for me. But I gotta admit, after it won the Academy Award for Best Picture, oh no, it wasn't. It didn't win. It was the other one. But I don't know. This movie won quite a few Academy Awards, as I recall. So I did go back and watched it, I think, yeah, I got a lot out of it. It was a really well done movie. Great metaphor, I think, for the Black American, African American experience. But it was indeed garlic. Do you remember the scene, Vicky? Do you remember how garlic was used?
No, I don't remember. It was a long time ago, but I remember it was garlic. Yeah.
Yeah, Michael B. Jordan plays twin brothers who made a lot of money in Chicago during Prohibition days, and they come back to their home, and well, now I'm going to embarrass myself because I can't remember if it was Mississippi or somewhere else, and they try to open a juke joint, and they get this woman named Annie to do the cooking, and at some point they are besieged by vampires as a metaphor, I think, for cultural appropriation, these white guys who come in and start turning everybody into vampires. And at some point, the woman named Annie has pickled garlic, and she throws it on them, and they start burning up and run away. Not real fond of it. And after they go, the survivors, the ones who are left, after a whole bunch of fucking people got killed, they're standing in a circle, and they're not sure who's a vampire anymore, because you can't tell when they get bit. You can't tell who's a vampire. So they pass around a jar of garlic cloves, and they all eat a garlic clove just to test to see who among them is a vampire, interestingly enough.
I would get shot in that movie. A pickled garlic? No. I'd be like, vampire!
Yeah. It's a great movie, though. Anthony, you have not seen it?
I have not seen it, but I'm definitely going to put it to the watch list. So,
Yeah, yeah, I would love to hear your thoughts on it afterwards for sure. It is worth noting that, yeah, in session 95.6, Ross said, we cannot express the full magical nature of your water, nor can we express the lightness and attractiveness of the garlic cut to the lower astral forms. The attractiveness is negative, and no service to self astral form will accept coexistence with cut garlic. So apparently the legends are true. The vampire legends are true. They really don't like garlic, which I think is really hilarious. Andrea, I know you said you're not a fan of broccoli. Did you say you're not a fan of garlic either? Because now I'm going to seriously wonder if you're a vampire.
Not a huge fan of garlic, but I will say I think garlic is, I mean, it's been tied to Catholicism for a really long time, right? Like exorcisms and stuff. So I think that's why the garlic has such an imbued power in it, like just the imbued power of a prayer and things like that. I think it has the same significance. It's not necessarily the object itself or the garlic plant. I think it's more because it's been used in rituals for many, many years to protect against evil things. Therefore, now it has that extra little boost. Yeah, so I eat some, but not much. No.
Yeah. Anthony, Vicky, are you guys fans of garlic? Do you like it in food?
oh yeah, I put garlic on everything pretty much. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't. I don't like it.
Vicky is a vampire. Always knew it. Love garlic. Boy, just put garlic and onion in the pan, and it doesn't matter what you do after that. It's going to be great, I think.
Exactly right. Exactly right.
Panelists, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for all you've done and continue to do in service to others. To all our friends at L&L Research, thank you for all you've done, continue to do in service to others. To you, if you're still watching at this point, thank you for all you've done and continue to do in service to others. We are sending you our love light, and we are receiving yours. Until next time, in the love and light of the one infinite creator. Adonai, namaste. Say goodbye, panelists.
Take care, guys.
Bye.